Be strong.
Alrighty, well, good morning. Very happy Friday here, coming to you live from StreamYard Studios, on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. This is Justin, and you guys are listening to the throw-in right here for 2 hours, taking you guys up until 11 o'clock. We got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to get underway. Hey, we got a busy weekend ahead of us. All right, don't forget, we got local football, we got local college, we got college football and high school football. We got to talk and discuss about. We got MLB playoffs that's about to kick underway, and we got to talk about all those games and our predictions. We got to also talk about WWE Extreme Rules that are about to, that's going to take place this weekend. A lot of those great matches, and I do want to focus a little bit more on WWE and the matches and my predictions and my thoughts on just the overall match concept that's coming up this weekend at Extreme Rules. And then let's not forget about the NFL. I still have to give you my predictions. We'll get ready for the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday night. And, just like I mentioned here, I mention this all the time. Thursday night football sets the tone, and I sure, for how the weekend's going to be. And I sure hope, that, it's anything like the Colts and the Broncos last night, because it was just a terrible game. 12-9 in overtime, no touchdowns, all field goals. And it's, I heard that even the fans left. The fans even left at halftime, at the overtime mark, not even wanting to tune in or watch the game. And I just think it was just, I didn't tune into the game because I don't have Amazon Prime. It's not on locally. So I didn't tune into the game. It wasn't telecast. And thank goodness. And I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed in the Broncos performance. I'm very disappointed in the Colts performance. Overall, I can't even find the right words to just how you think. All right, the Colts 12-9 win became its first with 0 touchdowns and 4+ interceptions since the Colts beat the Browns in Week 1 of 2003, when quarterback Peyton Manning and Kelly Holcomb each had 2 interceptions in a 9-6 final. Russell Wilson. Man, I don't know. What are you going to do with the guy? Is he really the Wilson of the past, or is he the Wilson that we see now? And the Wilson that we see now is not the Wilson that you can expect out of in this division. I've expected Russell Wilson to come in, and I wouldn't say change the NFL or change the Denver Broncos or change the AFC West. But I say Russell Wilson should have came in, and I had high hopes. Now a lot of it has to do with Nathaniel Hackett. I'm not a big fan of Nathaniel Hackett, and over the last few weeks, you've seen why I'm not a fan of Nathaniel Hackett. Don't think he's a head coach. I'm right there with Colin Cowherd. I just he's not I mean, they're trying to make, I just say, stupid decisions. They're not like the Baltimore Ravens where they're trying to make analytic decisions in certain plays. It's it's just there's not making plays. Period. I mean, I don't know what you got at the running at the receiving game. I know the Colts defense isn't that good. I know the Broncos defense is ain't that good. But we sat here yesterday and we told you the importance of just how the Broncos needed this win more than anything else. You think that you're playing at the Mile High Stadium in Denver, Colorado, that you'd come in and with the sense of urgency and, hey, this is the Colts. The Colts are coming into town. What are they really better than us? I don't. I mean, I don't think that the Colts are better than the Broncos. At least not on paper. But I mean, you got Russell Wilson, one of the most fierce quarterbacks in the NFC West, dated back to when they went to the, Super Bowl. I mean, it's time to kind of put up or shut up. And, earlier this week, I gave you guys quarterly reviews, and Russell Wilson has not been the same. Now, maybe in Seattle, he was given the receivers and he was given the opportunity. He was, well, not the opportunity. I mean, he was surrounded probably by better players. I mean, you go over to a different atmosphere, and now you're like, I'm giving up on the Broncos. Broncos were supposed to be one of those teams in a slot to go on and have a solid season with 9 to 10 games on the year and possibly have a chance at the wild card, right? But the way that the Broncos play, it would almost feel like if you're disgusted to see the Broncos even want to contend to a playoff spot, and the way that they played last night. So, man, I talked. This was a big game for. I mean, listen, last Thursday night was a big game for the NFL, especially for when it was the Dolphins trying to, continue their undefeated streak. When it was the Bengals trying to pick up a very important win on a Thursday on under the spotlight, when the Bengals were trying to, finally get back to 500, and coming into last night. And, I thought the implications would have, told you a different story. The fact that there was no touchdowns, the energy around the stadium was it felt like, it was quiet. It felt like all the energy was sucked out of the stadium throughout the game. I think you realize once you get down to, the first couple of possessions, when you get the momentum going, but you can't complete a touchdown or you can't score 6 on the scoreboard. I think that's when you start losing faith into your own quarterback. And I really don't know where the Broncos are going to be headed. And it's going to be, I don't know. I mean, are they going to still finish off with the positive at the positive end of the season, above 500? This was the AFC West coming in the beginning of the year. I was like, listen, Wilson comes in and he's going to make an impact, right? You really liked what Wilson has done with the Seattle, with the team. We understand that he was injured last year, so his performance was not as great. So Seattle's result wasn't as great. And we thought coming into this season that, hey, with Wilson being hurt last year, that's why the Seahawks wasn't a great team. But does Wilson really need to go back to Pete Carroll over there in Seattle and say, hey, listen, maybe the 1-2 duo, the dynamic duo there between Wilson and Carroll were actually the match. I mean, Pete Carroll has an opportunity this week to shine and to gain one above, the, in the standings with Geno Smith. That's the opportunity that Pete Carroll has this weekend. And I think it's going to be the gripe. We've been talking about, we talked about this before. The gripe between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, how now Tom Brady has left New England and has one more Super Bowl than Bill Belichick, is going to like the fumes and the fire the underneath Bill Belichick to want to get back to the Super Bowl with the Patriots before he decides to hang up and retire as well. And there's always going to be that competition level. Well, is that the same thing going on in with Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson? Is that, who's going to have a better career? Because I feel like when Russell Wilson left, a lot of people despise just how good Pete Carroll's coaching is because he's a defensive coach. And so, he was one, in defensive coaches, they're not notorious for winning football games. They're not notorious for taking the teams to the playoffs, no less to the Super Bowl. Usually offensive coaches do all that work. Offensive head coaches, they're the ones who have more success in the NFL. But Pete Carroll's a defensive coach. So, with the defensive coach, with Russell Wilson at the right board, right stakes, this is why they were so successful. At least having, consistent winning seasons, going on to the playoffs. I mean, at least when you get that in Seattle, that is something more than enough satisfying. And see, Pete Carroll now, and here's the difference, because Pete Carroll, he could take an average quarterback and raise him to the level that Russell Wilson is. Now, let's do time where time is due, because Russell Wilson is not at the age, is not in his prime as he once was years ago, right? History has told his lesson. He's been banged up. He's been hit. Last night, you've seen that. He still could run. I mean, we saw a couple good plays. Running plays last night, at least coming out of the Broncos and Russell Wilson, but he's not the same agility guy that can get out of the pocket, that can run, that can really just do all of that, right? So he's kind of now forced to stay in the pocket. Then his receivers, are unable to, get open. And I think that was one of the issues was, because you also got to remember these were two quarterbacks, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, two quarterbacks coming from the AFC or the NFC coming from two teams that really haven't gotten the running game going. Russell Wilson, 21 for 39. He also goes on and runs with 4 carries, 22 yards, averaging about 5 yards a carry. I'm going to take that as average, but the running game isn't the same. That his legs ain't working the same and that he has to be forced to stay in the pocket. This was a guy that was always to scramble out, find an open receiver, build his team into some extra time. And you saw that last night. You saw that plenty of last night's game where he tried to scramble. He didn't try to scramble as much, but he was trying to stay in the pocket a little longer. Well, I'm going to come to the defense right now to tell you about the offensive linemen. Give them five. The offensive linemen are, they're, I don't care at what level you are. You don't know how many defenders are charging at you at the time. There are 5 linemen. One of the, I say 4.5 because one of them has to throw a ball between their legs. And I've done that plenty of times. And sometimes, trying to focus on throwing a perfect ball, right? Because it is adequate that under center, you want to throw a perfect spiral ball back to your quarterback. And it wasn't the greatest experience I've had. And it really takes a distraction away from your, from what you're doing, from your blocking. And you're trying to also, usually as center, and you see this more often, is usually the center or a guard. One of those two are taking reins of the O-line. They're pointing out schemes. They're saying, hey, you need to, hey, notice this. Be prepared for that guy rushing. Be prepared for that outside linebacker to charge. Let's all shift to the left or whatnot. Hey, I need help with him. And that's usually calling from the center. And so when you have a ball, when you have a ball and you can't, it's difficult because you got to bend all the way down. You're the only person that has to bend all the way down, grab that ball, look up, see what you have in store, and then be able to point, navigate people, snap that ball, and get right into, position to block. While your guards next to you, all they have to do is squat, and now they're ready. So it's not easy for the offensive line. So when I say that the offensive line comes in and that you're really giving them 5 to 7 seconds, they're not there. They're not designed to block for 10, 15, 20 seconds while you figure out what kind of scheme or where guys can get open. This is a communication that you have to become utterly clear among, players that are, among the, the receivers, among the quarterback, among the running back, among, the offensive line, everyone. All right, it has to be a sync unit. And last night's performance with the Broncos, I guess it kind of agitated me. You expected more out of the Broncos this year. You expected more out of the Broncos this game. And yeah, when you look back on the record, they're 2-3. But even the 2-3 games, Wilson and the Broncos haven't had a solid game. We knew that this was going to be a close game, right? We knew that this was going to be a game that people needed to, both teams needed to win. Denver goes 375 in total yards compared to the Colts 106. Never really established the run game. Passing was 250 to 200. Denver was 125 to 106. And I think it comes down, Denver really, besides the points, annihilated, maybe minus the sacks, minus the third down efficiency, minus the interceptions, very, very close in time and possessions, and maybe, minus the penalty, which was one more penalty above. This was a very, Denver, they led in total yards. Denver led in passing yards, rushing yards. It came down to not being able to finish drives. And therefore, and then it comes down to the final play of the game when you have 4th and 1, when you could kick the field goal, go on and tie it, and you go for it when you've been throwing it to the end zone all night long and you couldn't receive anybody. I don't know. I felt like it was just a negative or a bad game calling from the Denver Broncos, or from Nathaniel Hackett. And then in that sense, I think that they should have kicked it. And even if you ended up with the tie, I say, okay, was a tie ball game. I think I would come on here talking about the game in another, point of view. But, now this, nothing was able to get going on both sides of the field. And that's the same thing for the Colts. That's the same thing for Matt Ryan. And there's no excuses. I wouldn't, the Colts, yeah, you got another win on your record, right? I mean, you move to 2-2-1, and I'll give you credit. And congratulations, you picked up a victory, but it wasn't a victory really much so to celebrate. So I don't know. It wasn't a great game. What did you guys think of Thursday Night Football, week number 5, Colts, Broncos last night? I want to know. Did you guys see something that I didn't see that really sparked one or the other team? Oh, the defense really is that good? Oh, gosh. All right. Anyways, this is what we have in store for you today. All right. I will get to, we want to take a little bit more time in our program because we normally save the last segment for WWE, but I want to spend a little bit more time on that. So when we come back from our break now, we will give you our NFL predictions for week number 5. We will also give you the, then we'll transition into college and high school football, get you locally around town what's going on, talking about the Western Browns high school football team. And, I like, Beechwood is close by, Dixie High School, just right down the street. Hey, the kids out there, they're enjoying a 4-day weekend. What about you guys? Are you guys taking personal time off this weekend? to go hang out with the family. Any events going on? Trying to go to a pumpkin patch this weekend. Hopefully that works. We'll see. But we'll we'll also get you ready for the MLB playoffs. All right, eight teams right now in the wild card series. 4 games starting up at noon. We'll get you all those details and highlights. And listen, I was talking to basketball season is around the corner. Do we want to talk about basketball? Do you guys want to hear about basketball? You guys want to hear about the NBA? You guys want to hear about the stories? I mean, LeBron James looking to pick up an expansion team in Las Vegas. So do you guys want to hear about that? Let me know down in the comments. I want to try to figure that out. We don't have an NBA team. We don't have a minor league team, whatever the case may be. We don't have basketball here besides college in in Cincinnati. So do you guys want to hear about another team, maybe the Lakers, maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers, or do you just want to stick with the college basketball for now? And then also at the end of the show, we'll talk about Extreme Rules, getting you guys ready for SmackDown. And I'm really impressed. I'm very impressed about, very excited for this show, for the match match product that they're putting up for. It's one thing now to say, all right, here's the matches, here's the stipulations under this event. Then you got to go want to execute. So, all right, we're just getting warmed up here on a Friday. Let's finish off the week strong. We'll take a break. We'll come back, get you NFL predictions and a lot more. Thank you guys for tuning into the Throwing with Justin right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, 9:27 here, taking you guys up until 11 o'clock on the throw-in. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys are watching us on YouTube or listening to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, hey, thank you. Come down into the comments. Let me know what you guys think about some of these stories and your opinions and your thoughts, and get involved in the conversation on a Friday. Help me out. Let's wrap up the fantastic week. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button for more information, all that good stuff. I want to say good morning to Steve Barber over there from Armchair Booking Podcast. Saw that new episode. Haven't watched it yet. They have Armchair Booking Podcast. New episode came out. Extreme Rules 2022 preview. I don't know. I'll have to tune into that, see if that's the same... if they predict the same thing same things that I do. I'll give you my take on that here and a little bit later on in our program. But man, last night was a struggle when it came down to Thursday night football, the Colts and the Broncos, and it was just simple playing calling, especially at the end of the game, that could have changed the entire dynamic of the outcome. The Broncos could have and probably should have walked away with this victory. And now you kind of give a little bit of hope that to Matt Ryan and to the Colts that they finally could probably go on some sort of stretch. Now, for the Broncos, you lose this game and you have to go now into, week number 6, and you have to really take a look at yourself because you are 2-3. The Chargers are a chance to win. They're going to be facing the Browns this week. And, the Chiefs are facing the Raiders in a divisional series on Monday night. And it's like, okay, well, you're not going to go bet yourself against Patrick Mahomes. And I mentioned, Patrick Mahomes is almost as, at least betting-wise, material with Tom Brady, right? You never bet against Tom Brady, right? You never bet against his performance. You don't normally, in that case, you don't normally bet against the Broncos. How often do you really sit there and say, hey, as in, for an example, the Buccaneers, I believe, who are they facing this week? I just had it popped up. The Buccaneers are facing the Atlanta Falcons. So do you ever sit there and are you going to say that the Falcons are going to beat the Buccaneers? A lot must go wrong if you're going to, if you believe that Tampa Bay is going to lose to the Atlanta Falcons. And that's the same thing to the Chiefs. You really think that the Raiders could beat the Chiefs? Now, hey, listen, anything is possible. The Chiefs lost their first game a couple weeks ago to the Colts, but you just don't typically bet or want to bet against the Kansas City Chiefs, at least not right now. And so, if you're the Broncos, you're 2-3. You have coming into this weekend, on the outskirts of this weekend, teams are going to start, the Chargers and the Chiefs are going to start making it clear, regardless of, all right, are they going to be that better team? Are they going to, we're going to finally see that gap between the AFC West and for the Colts, right? They get to sit there. They're now 2-2. They're practically playing 500 football, right? You have the Jaguars coming into this weekend. You have the Titans coming into this weekend as well. And, this is a division where just a little bit of momentum and every win's necessary, because you're not going to go get those 10 wins. Now, coming into week number 6 or week number 5, you're just helping the Colts along. And that's what I'll leave it as that. So I lose my first game of this week picking the Buccaneers. Very disappointed. Not really disappointed because I picked the Buccaneers, just disappointed in the Buccaneers' performance, both teams' performance. But nonetheless, Sunday, we have another couple impactful games, and a couple games that I think should have been really interesting, but we really don't know what's the outcome is going to be. For example, the London series. Green Bay and New York Giants both come into this game 3-1, right? The Packers are 3-1, and Aaron Rodgers is going to take his team, take the young rookies, the new Devontae Adams that he's proclaiming of the world, and they're going to go into London. They're going to take care of business against the Giants. Well, the Giants, hey, listen, they got a lot of injuries on their roster, on their list, especially quarterback. So will the Giants prevail? And it's one of those, I guess you don't bet against Aaron Rodgers, right? Now, let me ask you this. Do you guys enjoy the London series where now it seems like there's multiple teams, multiple weeks, I think last couple of seasons, you've had maybe 4 to 6 teams doing international games. And now I think you have about 4 to 5 games alone, international games. And I think it just kind of messes up the internal clocks. And I get it. They do it within this month and partial next month. And that way they could, get that out of the way with, and you're sharing the football across the globe because it's an international thing. But, some of these teams, it's a gripe. And yeah, they play first thing Sunday morning, at least out here, right? But these teams have to stop what they're doing. They have to travel on a Thursday or Wednesday. If they could get into London, we don't know what the weather's like. We don't know how well they can acclimate that. It's one thing if you're in Seattle flying out to Miami and adapting to that humidity. It's another thing when you have to travel across the seas and have a football game, and you just don't get the same energy. You don't get the same vibe as if you're in Lambeau Field. So kicking things off, the Packers and the Giants. I think Aaron Rodgers, although he complains about playing in the London games, in London, I think he's going to walk away with this one. Packers pick up a victory. They'll move to 4-1. They're comfortable lead over the NFC North. It's just going to grow. Just going to grow out there. Another game that should be an interesting game, but, because of the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh with trying to stay patient with Kenny Pickett, trying to kind of mix in Mitchell Trubisky, and Josh Tomlin has already proclaimed and claimed that he's going to go with, Kenny Pickett this week, which is a great sight to see. But it was supposed to be the Steelers and the Bills. Josh Allen coming back, phenomenal MVP marker career already season, And, they lost the one game against Miami, but I think a lot of people don't even know where they went wrong. And I think that it's more of this told story of Kenny Pickett. And I know he's not the same quarterback as a lot of these greats, right? He still has to build himself. He has to build his resume. No one's asking him to go out there and win the Steelers a Super Bowl. But I think there's a sense of urgency with probably Josh Tomlin, with the fans, that you kind of say, all right, if Pickett, if you're the guy, we got to go with you, right? Mitchell Trubisky isn't doing all that well, and we're not going to wait around. But the problem is that you're going to have to wait around for Kenny Pickett to develop and to grow as a quarterback. And I think the fans are a little worried about. I think Tomlin's a little worried about how they're going to finish off their season. I mean, they don't have an easy game this week, and haven't had a couple easy games throughout the season. I mean, you don't go lose to the Jets and expect to come back and beat the Bills. So I got the Bills in this one. AFC North division, games coming your way. We got the Chargers and the Browns. I got the Chargers picking up this victory in Cleveland. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that he is all the way there as a quarterback, but what I have discovered is that Trevor Lawrence, as I mentioned to you at the beginning of the season, he is a quarterback that's going to have to find his, this is his second season. He's a quarterback that's going to have to find whatever type of person he's going to be. Is he going to be a starting quarterback, or if he's going to be a backup quarterback? And I think that because he plays in the AFC South, that's going to give him the upper advantage overall to be better than what he actually is. All right, when you go on and you could beat the Texans like they're going to do this week, and the Texans are going to drop to 0-4-1, and the Jaguars are going to become 3-2, tied with Indianapolis Colts, or be above Indianapolis Colts, and then the Titans, who are going to go on and face the Washington Commanders. A little up in the air with that one. I'll let you know who I think is going to win here in a moment. But when you have Trevor Lawrence, and we knew that coming into week, second, season of his career, he is going to now have to establish himself. Jaguars aren't that great of a team, but someone has to finish out on top. And I don't think it's going to be Texas. I don't think it's going to be Tennessee. And if it's Tennessee, they're going to back their way in. And I don't think I really, and I know I chose the Colts, but I'm a little bit concerned right now about the Colts. I'm favoring Jaguars. So I believe that the Jaguars and the Colts are going to have some sort of run for the postseason, for the division. And I wouldn't, and then that's just because the entire division just is shitty. It's crappy, right? No one likes I don't think, there's not a lot of excitement coming out of the South in the AFC. So I got the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence picking up their third victory this Sunday against the Texans. You got the Bears over in Minnesota, and the Vikings are very impressive as of late. They went on last week in London and beat the Saints. And so I'm rooting for the Vikings in this one. Detroit in New England. This should be a nice, easy matchup, even though both teams come 1-3. It's hard to kind of, in this scenario, bet against Bill Belichick at home. But you have to choose Belichick in his home field against the Lions that are just, I don't know, they're not going nowhere. Seattle and New Orleans. Now, this would be a great opportunity for New Orleans to come back home from a rough London series and just put on a clinic against Seattle. But here's where these teams lie. There's quarterback problems with Seattle. There's issues with with what's going on, and it's not the same team since the departure and the retirement from Drew Brees. And we're finally seeing that, right? And it's not so great, right? Let me tell you that. And with Russell Wilson losing last night, I'm sure tell you there has to be some sort of conflict in, all right, who wants to be a better team. Pete Carroll's going to come in with a little bit more gripe, with a little bit more intensity. Geno Smith wants to also prove himself and continue to prove himself and continue to be a starting quarterback. So I got Seattle over the Saints. Now this game here, this is the next game, is where I kind of am up in the air. I don't necessarily know where this game is going to take everyone, but that's going to be the Dolphins and the Jets, because this is the first week that this is the aftermath after everything that's happened with Tua Tagovailoa. Teddy Bridgewater is going to get the start, okay, and they're in New York. And New York is coming in. They're trying to get themselves situated. Zach Wilson's back. And with the combination of Joe Flacco, you have the Jets are kind of being, could be in favor. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets pulled away with this one. And I don't know, maybe help me with this one. The Dolphins beat the Jets a couple, last year in their final throwdown, 31-24. I'm still favoring the Jets or the Dolphins, but I would see why one can have the Jets pick up a victory in this one, and it would be very exclusive. And if the Jets could pick up this victory, and think about everything that's going right now, the 3-1 Bills, you got the 3-1 Dolphins. The Dolphins ain't gonna want to let up on the gas. They're gonna have to keep fighting at it. Now they have the 1-up advantage on the Bills in the division, but then if the Jets could come in and already, knock the Dolphins back down to 3-2, and they could pick up the victory, we could see the entire AFC East be reshaped by the end of this weekend. So, but I'm going Dolphins over Jets, playing more of the safeguard factor. We got the Falcons and Buccaneers, where the Falcons, you just don't bet against Tom Brady. Yeah, I know Tom Brady's 2-2. The only reason why that the Buccaneers are losing this season, it's because of their defense. I think the defense steps it up after a humiliating loss last week against the Chiefs, and you go on to win this one. But give me the Buccaneers. Tennessee against Washington, and now I originally picked Tennessee to win this one. I kind of still favor Tennessee to win this one, even though Washington is at home. But they had a lousy performance last week against the Cowboys. I know that's a arch nemesis rival game. I'm just not a fan of Washington right now. I mean, there's nothing solid going out of Washington. No one, they're just going to be. Carson Wentz is just not a good quarterback. San Francisco over in Carolina. Baker Mayfield, I've given up on Baker. 49ers walking away. Nice, easy win on this one. I'm projecting a nice, easy win. Jimmy Garoppolo, very, the 49ers defense, very impressive. I think a lot of that carries over into this week. I think that a lot of it carries over, and, for the rest of the season. And they're going to, and if this is a 49ers team that is now getting their, feet wet with what, and starting to get on the same path as last year, they're going to be a force to reckon with this year. Eagles over in Arizona. Same thing. Eagles 4-0, continuing their undefeated streak. The only team in the NFL undefeated. And it'll be interesting to come back on Monday and talk about if the Eagles are overrated or not. But we'll say that for a later conversation. Sunday football, America's football game of the week, right? Cowboys in Los Angeles. Cooper Rush is going to go into LA and face Matthew Stafford. And listen, Cooper Rush, I know he hasn't done anything really impressive, but he's going to get an opportunity to play one of the top teams in the NFC. And I think that is at least worth like a game or two before you go or decide to go back to Dak Prescott, hey, listen, you're not going to win every game in the football world. Um, so I know that Cooper Rush has been dominant for the last couple weeks, and I think that the Rams are going to come in and handle business. They lost against the 49ers. I think this was a very, very tough loss at at the hands of the 49ers. But and they come home, they're not going to allow a loss from the Cowboys. So the Rams come home, they win, they take care of business against the Cowboys. Cooper Rush is going to experience his first loss. I don't think it's to hit the panic button to go back to head on back to Dak Prescott real quick. But I mean, I think it will be a real good first challenge for Cooper Rush and see how he does against a good team in the NFC. All right, we got Sunday night throwdown showdown here with the Bengals and the Ravens. And I know this is a big, exciting game, and I'm actually going to take this game and talk about this a little bit more when we come back from break. So I'm going to move on to the Monday night football game, the Raiders and the Chiefs, and 1-3 versus 3-1. I got the Chiefs. You don't bet against Patrick Mahomes, and Chiefs are going to walk away with another victory with this one. All right, so I got all my NFL Week 5 predictions in. I'll come back with the Ravens and Bengals thoughts here. If you guys have any thoughts, let me know. Still a lot to come here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. We want to give a big shout out and thank you to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Create your podcast, YouTube videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. All that and more. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. Armchair Booking got Raider Nation over there as they get ready to take on the Chiefs Monday Night Football. I feel like the AFC West, was supposed to be a big division. I feel like it's supposed, in the last couple of years, right? The West is kind of supposed to be a big division. Last year was supposed to be the NFC West, right? Where you had Wilson, in Seattle. You had, Kyler Murray, at Arizona, Jimmy Garoppolo, the Rams. And I think it turned out to be a really good outcome, no? 3 of the 4 teams contended and made it to the playoffs. And I was like, all right, this is a success. And the only reason why maybe Russell Wilson wasn't and the Seattle Seahawks wasn't at the top of that division was because Russell Wilson was injured. And you think that coming over to Denver, I mean, you're bringing the same talent, but you came into this season thinking that, hey, the AFC West is going to give you a run for their money, and then you watch a game like last night, where the Broncos couldn't muster up a touch. Neither team could muster up a touchdown. And especially the Broncos, who in a performance from Wilson that looks like, he's a backup quarterback. I don't know what's going on with Russell Wilson. And all I know is that he's really shot himself in the foot if he thinks that this is going to continue, not only one with his performance, but 2 with Nathaniel Hackett. Because, yeah, we could sit here and blame everything on Russell Wilson. We could sit here and say that that Russell Wilson is not playing well, but it's also yet again game decisions. I mean, they could have, like I mentioned, the end of last night's game could have ended in a tie simply, or at least given a chance to get the ball back when, the Colts go down the field and they kick a field goal. You go down the field and you're on 4th and 1 in your end zone, in the red zone there, and you decide to go for it. And you go for it knowing that the team has not gone for it the entire, when they have made end zone plays, they've missed. I think it was another example of poor play decisions that gave the Broncos a loss. Now, hey, Steve over that armchair bookie, you're going for the Raiders. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know that the Raiders are good enough to beat the Chiefs after having an impressive win against the Buccaneers. Plus, they're going to be at Arrowhead Stadium. But hey, the Colts beat the Chiefs. So if the Colts could beat the Chiefs and the Colts could beat the Broncos, why not the Las Vegas Raiders? And how come they can't beat the Chiefs as well? So I know that it's going to be up in the air. And when you deal with divisional games, it's always going to be it's anybody's ball game, especially in week 5 of the NFL season. But, the Ravens just got their first victory and their first taste of winning. Is that enough energy? Is that enough spark to go into Kansas City against Patrick Mahomes, against their defense, and really to get and to really overcome them at Arrowhead Stadium? So who else is playing analytic football like the Broncos? Those Baltimore Ravens. And I think it's going to be a big factor coming into Sunday night football game that the Baltimore Ravens have to play analytic football in order for the Bengals to win. Now, all the Bengals are hoping for, we sit there and we talk about all the analytic decisions that the Ravens have played that John Harbaugh has made, and you kind of hope, oh man, you should have saved that for the game that's coming up this Sunday night, because a better win, the Bengals have finally picked up 2 consecutive wins. Now, yes, I would honestly say that last Thursday, night's football game, their victory was kind of handed to them based off of Dolphins' decisions. So I really don't know, how much of a, confident level you should take going into this game. But this is a divisional game. And you've already lost a game to the Steelers back in week 1. You have yet to face the the Browns in this case. And you're facing the Ravens on a throwdown. Now, yeah, you won last year. You beat them at home in the last outing on Christmas. But coming into this season where you've already shown the flaws, like you're going to have to be flawless, for one. And you're going to have to stay one step ahead of the Ravens the entire game. Make them do something that they don't normally do and capitalize on it. That means going in and scoring the first touchdown, winning the coin toss. Every drive needs to be some sort of point of possession in order to win. Burrow needs to remain calm. He needs to remain controlled, and let the game come to him. And this is week 5. All right, there's enough pandering around about, it's the first few weeks of the season. We are in week 5 of the NFL. All right, this is where teams start developing who's good and who's bad. And if you don't beat the Ravens now, what makes you think you could beat the Ravens in, the next time around? So listen, Joe Burrow, I've given you enough weeks. Fair enough to say we've given him enough weeks. All right. Now, yeah, we're looking for a analytic error that the Ravens are going to go for it on 4th down when they should kick a field goal, or that they should go for 2 when they should just kick the extra point, right? When they should have run instead of passing on 3rd down and 1, whatever the case may be. We're looking for those errors. But at the same time, the Bengals can't sit around waiting for those errors to be given to them, or else the Ravens are going to walk all over them. They need to come out with an aggression. They need to come out with intensity. They need to come out wanting to score first. They need to come out wanting to strip the ball. We talked about last week being a big game. We talked about 2 weeks ago against the Jets being a big game. It's one after the other. And yeah, it's the part of the season where you're just going to have to tuck your tail between your legs and gripe through the season. Now, I personally don't think that the Ravens are going to allow the same mistake twice. All right, this is Sunday Night Football. This is at home in Baltimore, right? This is Ravens Nation down here, and it's notorious. You're going to go into your divisional territory, and it's going to be a really different atmosphere. And I just don't quite know yet if the Ravens or if the Bengals have what it takes. I don't know if they're all the way there yet, right? Now, if they could come off with this victory, tonight, I'm going to tune into it, and we'll talk a lot about it Monday morning. But if they could come up with a victory, then I'm okay. Then I may reconsider my, okay, now I could be comfortable in saying that the Bengals are now on a routine path and they're practically back to where they're at now. If not, then I'm still, here's the final line to it before we cut to break. If the Bengals win, you're comfortable that they're finally back to where they need to be at. If they lose, then they're back to the 0-2 team, which is going to be scrambling around for a victory, especially if the Browns could pick up a victory on Sunday against the Chargers. All right, hour number 1 is in the books. We want to come back. We'll talk a little bit about college football, just give you the highlights, the scores. Games are coming up this weekend. We'll take a little look into high school football, Western Brown, what they're going on, Beechwood, Dixie High School, stuff like that. The top ranked teams. I want to get into the playoffs. All right, MLB playoffs begin tonight. We'll be calling games this weekend. I'm not quite sure yet, but we'll still talk about that. And then let's not forget about WWE and Extreme Rules still to come. So a busy hour number 2. Don't go nowhere. The Throwing On with Justin continues on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, welcome back here on the Throw-In with Justin. If you guys miss any episode, you guys want to re-listen to this, if you guys are at work, you guys are driving around, whatever the case may be, feel free to check us out on all audio streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker. If it's an audio platform, it must be on there. All right, don't forget to check us out on all audio platforms with the Throw-In. And I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Steve Barber over there at Armchair Booking Podcast, which you could do the same thing with them with their podcast, Armchair Booking Podcast, where, a few months ago, he's the one who really brought it to my attention that Spreaker gives you better qualities, bigger distributions. And so, ever since then, I've been using Spreaker, been a great product for audio platforms. And, I really like it a lot. I mean, I really do. I know it sounds maybe notorious to have, do this audio and then upload another audio that's just the same thing. The other one's kind of just more refined and cleaned up and, a little bit more better, than the individual pauses. So, but thank you over there at Armchair Booking for, collaborating and letting me know, hey, this is a product that works well for me. It may work well for you. That's what we liked. It was interesting because, because we, I think it was around this time, maybe November-ish, where we ran into Steve Barber. This show ran into Steve Barber a year ago. And, it was, everything started falling into place. He started doing recordings and putting himself up on YouTube also. So, just trying to expand the network. So I love how, really podcasters got to stick together, right? Any audio platforms, radio hosts, podcasters, analysts, we all just got to stick together and work together. And I really appreciate the everything that Steve Barber over at Armchair Booking does, and the support, and tuning into each and every episode, stuff like that. So thank you so much. But hey, we're gonna wrap it up on football here. Dive a little bit into some college football. We take a look a little bit back on Wednesday. I want to dive a little bit more into Monday to start maybe taking our time with football. And we're gonna have our hands full, and I really don't know how. I know baseball season's over with, but the playoffs is here. So, and I know that there's going to be a big conversation about playoffs, right? We got professional wrestling, we got the NFL, which there's been a lot to talk about in the NFL as of late. Only in the first few weeks, right? We get 10 hours a week on this program, and majority of that is about the NFL. It's about the Cincinnati Bengals. It's about the AFC North. But we don't get a lot of time to sit around and talk about the Louisville Cardinals, or the Kentucky Wildcats, or even the Cincinnati Bearcats. And so we want to start working our way. Not going to be perfect, but wanting to start work our way into talking a little bit more college football as it unfolds and unravels. So if you're looking for football tonight, now for me, today's a big baseball day. But if you're looking for football tonight and you want to get your weekend off early, Nebraska and Rutgers coming off of a game, is playing tonight, kickoff at 7 p.m. at SHL Stadium in New Jersey. Now, Rutgers lost to Ohio State last week, so it's going to be a nice, impressive, it's going to be another game for, between Nebraska and Rutgers to take a look into. Another, I like the Mountain West Conference games. That's just me. UNLV takes on San Jose State at 10:30, and then also, is that stand corrected? Is that considered Saturday? Okay, no, that's Saturday's game. Okay, for a moment I saw under the Friday category, Arkansas and Mississippi State. I thought it said 12 a.m., but that's 12 p.m. So there's 4 games on tonight. Nebraska Rutgers kicks things off at 7:30. Houston and Memphis. Colorado State in Nevada tips away as well, and then UNLV and San Jose State. So a little bit of everything for everybody. One in the first session, one in the back end of the later in the evening. Coming on Saturday, a couple games that we want to just bring attention to. You have Michigan, who is undefeated, 5-0. Taking on Indiana, that's 3-2. I feel like that's going to be a nice, good, competitive game. We've seen these two go in and compete. So that's a game to watch out for. That's taken on at 12 p.m. on Fox. Louisville taking on Virginia after losing to Boston College. Now Virginia and Louisville's at the same record, same even playing field. I like that matchup. Just scrolling down here, number 17 TCU taking on number 19 Kansas at 12. That's going to be on FS1. Cincinnati is taking on Florida, or South Florida, who is 1-4, keeping that win streak going. Finally made it back into the top 25. And I don't know how much of this victory is going to reach them up even further. I think that Cincinnati deserves to be in the top 15, in my opinion. I mentioned this earlier, whether it was this week or last week, I can't remember, but there was a part of part of me was like, this is a team that was in the Final Four of the CFP, last year, and now they're, barely in the top 25. So a nice, easy win. That's going to be a 2:30 p.m. kickoff at Nippert Stadium, Ohio. Something that if you guys are out of town, I'm pretty sure it's already sold out, but if you guys are out of town, tune into that, tailgate to that, go out and support That team, just kind of scrolling down the list here. Number 11, Utah will take on number 18, UCLA, after UCLA beat Washington last week. Get a chance to come home to the Rose Bowl in Los Angeles, face Utah, and it's going to be a good matchup. That one's at 3:30 p.m. available on Fox. And you know what? Listen, if you're looking for Saturday matchups, all right, Cincinnati in Florida, ESPN. Tune it back and forth and watch UCLA right after, back and forth during the breaks. I'd watch that. All right, what do we got here going through? You got number 16, BYU, taking on Notre Dame after Notre Dame finally has gotten their feet off of, from an 0-2 start on the season. They're finally coming back at 2-2, and they're going to be playing in Nevada on this one. So dive into that as well. Number 5, Clemson, undefeated, taking on Boston College. Boston College had a very impressive victory last week. Southern Carolina taking on number 13, Kentucky. Kentucky, a tough loss, brought them down from number 9 to number 13. Didn't make a huge jump. And they come into this game 7:30 p.m. on the SEC network. You guys could tune into that one. Washington State, 3-1, taking on number 6, USC. That's at 7:30 p.m. on Fox. I swear I saw Ohio State in here. I don't know where. There's so many teams being played on a Saturday. Sometimes you really, it's very easy to miss games that you want. Ohio State taking on Michigan State, 5-0, taking on 2-3. That's going to be on the road in Michigan at Spartan Stadium. So a little bit of NFL college football action. We'll get more into the results and the details coming up here Monday morning as we break open a new week. Over in high school football game, we just grind down the clock a little bit, right? College, NFL, the pros, down to college, and then all the way down to high school football. A lot of action tonight, taking way, going your way. A lot of things going on. Lebanon taking on number 7 Kings, 6-1 Kings. Western Brown on the road tonight, taking on Goshen. All right, after a very big win, putting up 50 points. They're still coming in at ranked number 25, barely hanging in there. Why? Probably because of the loss that they had. But I don't know. I feel like Western Brown should be up a little bit more. Do you? I mean, I say at least 20, but they beat Clinton Messi 50-28 last week. Drew Novak threw 15-19, 355 yards with 4 touchdowns. He's also carried 15 times, ran for 102 yards, and ran in for 3 of those touchdowns also. So, I mean, with Western Brown, when they've been playing, it's either they lose and they lose by a close margin this year. When they win, they win big. They go all out. And that was against Clinton last week. They go play on Goshen this week, 7 p.m. tonight. Tip off the 1-6 versus 6-1. You just kind of get that kind of butterfly feeling that this is going to be another blowout game and another big impact for Drew Novak. Hey, listen, Drew Novak is a senior, you guys. I'm now interested. And maybe Steve could shed some light. And I know we still have a solid 5 weeks before the end of high school football. I know we still have about, I'm assuming Western Brown is, going to make it to the playoffs and be a divisional playoff contenders this season. But I'm interested to see if Drew Novak, having a season to remember, is going to actually get picked up by a college team and see what college team he goes to. And this is that prime example, you guys. I've been saying this all season long. The local high school football games are more important now than the NFL. These, we talk about, hey, things kick off on Thursday Night Football. You got high school football on Friday nights underneath the lights. You got these kids, all right? You got hundreds of kids. All right, there's about 100, 150 kids on that field in each and every game. You got about 75 games. So do that math, right? About 7,500 kids total on a Friday night football. And I'm telling you, at least 1 to maybe 25 of them have an opportunity to get looked at in college football, where there's another 106 teams playing each and every week. Now, I don't know. I'm not thinking that Drew Novak is going to go to a top 10 school, but to see Drew Novak hopefully get the opportunity to get looked at by a college recruit and get signed off of a scholarship, is that what he wants to do? You know, Steve over there, you earlier this year, you showed me Drew Novak. You showed me why to watch out for him. Each and every week I tune into, I watch, I watched this game. I would tune into Western Brown. It was on TV. Unfortunately, I didn't get home enough to see it. Is there any more updates that you could give me on Drew Novak about his future after this season? Be excited to talk about that. All right. So we'll do that. So number 2, Lakota West taking on number 6, Fairchild. Now, here's a good one. Lakota West beat Mason last week, 37-7. Number 6, Fairfield beat Hamilton, 34-13. Now, I know that we've been following other teams around here. Lakota West is 7-0. Fairfield is 6-1. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Game of the week, Fairfield and Lakota West taking on each other. So got to watch that one. If it's on TV, if you have nothing else to do, head out to that game, watch that game. And I'm excited to cover that. Number 9, St. Xavier taking on LaSella, number 23. You're talking about high school football games. That may be the game of the season. Trying to find last but not least here. Can never find. They're always down at the bottom of the. Okay. And then there's so many games that you can never find them. I'm looking. Okay, there you go. Number 20, Beechwood, who moved to 5-1 after picking up a 37-14 win over Dixie Heights. They're back at home again. They scored 21 points in the first quarter back last week on Friday night football. They're taking on the 1-5 Holy Cross. Another walkthrough for kickoff is at 7:30. So, all right, that is your high school football stats and notes. Novak Armchair Booking says Novak is now number 3 all-time passing yards in Ohio high school football. He's going to have to go to a college. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll get to you guys some Major League Baseball playoffs as that begins today. We'll get you all the breakdown and everything. You guys are listening to the Third One, taking you up until 11 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, it is Friday. It is October 7th, and we are finally in postseason mode when it comes down to Major League Baseball. There's 12 teams. All right, we're going to take this one by one, where there's 12 teams. And before we get into the 12 teams, I want to give you my quick wind down on a Friday of just about how my opinions on the AL and NL West teams. Now, to start off with the American League. All right, I think if you choose an American League West Coast team to choose from and to support and to play, I like to choose. I like to support the Los Angeles Angels. Now, yes, I am a Padres fan, and I would root for the Padres. But each time the Padres will face another team, I'm rooting for the team. So as of tonight, trying not to give you a biased opinion, but if because the Padres are facing the Mets, I'm choosing the Padres. I want the Padres to win. The last time I've seen the Padres in the playoffs alone, they lost against the Cardinals. That was back in '07. And it's nothing to like, okay, they had that playoff run 2 years ago in the shortened season, but that's just nothing compared to a full 162 games. So to see them go back to the playoffs in 162 games is something that you don't, this generation don't see quite often, right? It's a rare success, just like when the Reds go to playoffs. It's a rare success. But so when I root for the American League teams, I go for the Angels. You're just up north, up the the 805 freeway, the 5 freeway, and they're playing in Orange County, up to 15 to the 205. And there you go, about an hour and a half drive. So I mean, I've always rooted for them, and I think it's a shame for having such a talented duo combination of Mike Trout and in Shohei Ohtani not to be in the postseason. Now, it doesn't come to surprise that Houston was in the postseason. Houston wins 100 plus games. It's not surprised because that's expected. That's tolerated. That's what you kind of expect when you go into Houston. It's a surprise to see Seattle making a run the way that they did. Right? The two teams that surprised you the most is Baltimore Orioles and then Seattle. And maybe not much so Seattle because they're normally a good baseball team, but more so Baltimore. Now, Oakland, they sold out. They unloaded, got rid of Bob Melvin, went to San Diego down south. And, Oakland wasn't going to be involved. Texas wasn't going to be involved. And so, usually Anaheim, Los Angeles, the Angels, they'll contend for a couple weeks, maybe a month or two into the division, and then they fall off. That's just usually how it's been for the last several years. And the same thing works with Seattle. They would normally contend up until maybe August, and then they'll fall off the track. So to be able to have the run, and then they made some key players, and not only that, I think it's a little bittersweet to see that a lot of the players, a lot of the contributions, right, not coming from a young guy in Julio Rodriguez, but also coming from the Reds organization. You got, Jesse Winker, you got, Luis Castillo, and Eugenio Suarez. And now, a year later, they're the team, the ones in the postseason, just like Nick Castellanos, right, over in Philadelphia. So, not surprised how the American League West turned out. National League West, not surprised at all. I think it was more surprising last season to see that the Giants just won above everyone and beat the Dodgers. I don't think anyone expected that. And obviously, this year, with no Buster Posey, and they're really changing the dynamic of the game. They don't have the same roster as they used to, and the Dodgers are just one of those teams. And I've told you guys, notorious all month long of September, that they have been and always will be the team to beat. They have the ungodly amount of money to pick up anybody. Even their minor league is stacked with players down all the way down the bottom. I mean, you're just as confident that the guys from El Cucamonga Quakes, the minor league team, right? They're the Dodgers, the home of the Dodgers in the minor league system. And for the single A team, you just know that they, even down there in single A, are just MLB ready as the players you see now in Mookie Betts. And, the Dodgers never even had a down stretch. They never had a series or a weekend or a week or two where they just couldn't get something going. And the National League West was not impressive. All right, the season, the division was already concluded by the All-Star break. The Padres, were trying to fight. Now, for a moment, there was the hints of, hey, was this the same Padres team from last year, and I think that they griped on. And this past weekend was a very difficult, a very emotional weekend. Now I know understand that the Padres fans would have liked to see them beat the White Sox to kind of feel more as if they really did something to get into the postseason, but it was thanks to the loss of the Milwaukee Brewers. But listen, the Padres are in it. It's been 162 games. It was now or never, and now, hey, we look at 12 teams in the postseason: the Dodgers, the Padres, the Astros, the Mariners, 4 teams from the West, the Cardinals and the Guardians, 2 teams from the Central, and then you have the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, and the Rays, all coming out of the East. So you have 6, 4, and 2. It's kind of a little bit of, it's kind of a little bit of one-sided. So there is, out of 12 teams, I would put that the East has a 60% chance, or has a 50% chance of winning the World Series this year. The West, if I do the math correctly, right, that's that's 1/3, so 33% chance of winning, and then 2 out of 6, that's 1/6. I don't even know what the number is on 1/6, but listen, the favors are in the East to say. All right, so out of those 12 teams, 8 of those teams are played this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday if necessary. And the interesting thing about the wild card weekend, it's a little change, right? We added another playoff team, and then so the first top 2 teams seeded in each league is going to have the bye. So that's going to be the Braves, who won the division earlier this week. It's going to be the Dodgers for the National League. The Yankees and the Astros will also have the first round bye. Okay, and who's going to have home field advantage? Well, it's going to be the Cardinals, the Guardians. And then determining earlier this week, the Mets. Well, the Mets have determined it, since the middle of September, because the Mets and the Braves were just determining who was going to win the division. The other winner was going to have the home field advantage. And then the Blue Jays, who clinched that earlier this week as well. So those are the 4 teams that are going to have home field advantage all weekend long. So this is how the wild card is going to play. It's a 3-game series, best out of 3. And the winner of the 3 is going to advance to the NL ALDS. Right? So you're going to play tonight. You're going to play tomorrow. Right? If you take the series, and if it's a 1-on-1 tie, they're going to play Sunday. Right? And if it's not, then they'll have a couple of days off. And then the NL-AL division series begins Wednesday, I believe. Right? So you're going to have weekend baseball. And then basically by the end of next week, we'll have the AL NLCS ready to go in that sense. So it's kind of moving along. You'll see it progress, other than the last couple of times where it takes, the best out of 5, best out of 5, best out of 7. Well, it's the best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, and now here we go. So taking a look into tonight, okay? Now I'm not going to try to give you my biased opinion, but we have the Rays kicking things off at 12:07. Shane McClanahan, all right, 28 games this year, 12-8, 2.54 ERA, and 166 innings pitched, with 194 strikeouts coming into his first postseason outing for the Tampa Bay Rays. For the Guardians, probably not his first postseason outing, but for the Guardians, you have Shane Bieber, who in 31 games, he was 13-8, 2.88 with 200 innings pitched with 198 strikeouts. All right, game number 2 tonight. We have Zach Wheeler on the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies, taking on Jose Quintana from the St. Louis Cardinals. That first pitch is at 2:07 p.m. And see, as you notice, there's just some strategic, because you have to probably throw your best out of game 1, maybe your best out of game 2, because if you lose game 1, you got to win game 2, and then you don't know who you're going to throw out game 3 if it goes down to game 3. All right, coming up tonight at 4:07, the Seattle Mariners taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. the former Cincinnati Reds pitcher, Luis Castillo, probably one of the aces coming out of Seattle, taking on Toronto's Alek Manoah. That first pitch, 407, and then the nighttime game. Okay, that's going to be Yu Darvish from San Diego taking on Max Scherzer from the Mets. All right, we have 3 games. We have the Padres and the Mets, we have the Rays and Guardians, and we have the Mariners and Blue Jays, all being aired on ESPN. The Phillies and the Cardinals will be on ABC. Now, here's what we do know. We do know that there will be a game 2, and for the first game at 12:07, the Rays and the Guardians. All we know is that Tyler Glasnow is going to be the starting pitcher. We don't know yet for the Guardians, and that's going to be the case for most of this. For a lot of these series, we don't know who's the starting pitcher is going to be because it's game by game. The second game at 4:07, that's going to be the Mariners and Blue Jays on Saturday, and you have Robbie Ray on the mound for the Blue Jays, where for the Mariners, as the Blue Jays are uncertain who they're going to have out there. And at 7:37, at 7:37 on Saturday, the Padres and the Mets, as Blake Snell will get the nod for the Padres, and then you have Austin Nola taking on Aaron Nola taking on Miles Michaelis for the Phillies and Cardinals game 2 on ESPN2. So let me actually rephrase that. Yeah, so everything's going to be on ESPN, and then the Padres game tomorrow night is going to be on ESPN, but then the Rays and Guardians and the Phillies and Cardinals are going to be on ESPN2 tomorrow, while the Mariners and Blue Jays and the Padres and Mets will be on ESPN. So a lot of baseball set to be played tonight. 4 games this weekend. It's going to be a busy weekend if they get to a Sunday. And that's a big if. All right. First game is at 2:07. That's going to be the Mariners and Blue Jays. The second game is going to be on at 4:07 with the Tampa Bay Rays and Cleveland Guardians. The Padres and Mets will get the 7 p.m. game. And then the last game of the evening, if they have to go to game 3, it's going to be the Phillies and the Cardinals at 8:37. So that is your postseason wild card weekend. So come Monday, we'll have a lot to talk about in that. All right, let's take our last break of the show. We'll come back and we'll talk about some extreme rules coming up this weekend. Stay tuned. TNC Sports Talk continue. Here's next. Alrighty, we'd like to give a big shout out to Epidemic Sound, the royalty-free music link that provides all the music for the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Discover your world's artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link, and for more information, check out epidemicsound.com today. Wrapping up on a Friday. You guys, busy sports weekend. I tell you this all the time. There's always something going around in the world of sports, whether that is baseball, whether that is football, basketball's coming up next week. Hockey's beginning next week also. When I won't say NBA not next week, but coming up here very, very, very shortly. I mean, you know, as we end one sport, we begin another, and a year-round sport is WWE. And we're finally diving into Extreme Rules, where a pay-per-view that was just a year ago was probably the most stale pay-per-view of them all. It's turning out to be one of the better pay-per-views that we've seen, or premium lives, however you want to call it. I call it pay-per-view, so don't shoot the messenger. You know, and it's, for me, it's actually fascinating to tune into. watch. I don't know how much I'm going to be tuning into it because the wild card series this weekend, and that's unfortunate. You got, high school football, college football. I will call it college football on Saturday, baseball on Saturday. So there's a lot that's already taken place, and I'm going to try to tune into it. But now we're on the road to Survivor Series. That's the way that I look at professional wrestling, right? Usually at the beginning of the year, you get Royal Rumble, Extreme, Elimination Chamber, maybe Fastlane, and then WrestleMania. And then from WrestleMania, you get into Money in the Bank, you get into some of the other pay-per-views, getting ready for SummerSlam. And then from SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and the cycle starts all over again. So this case is not any different. And Extreme Rules is coming up, this Saturday night. I'm very excited to be watching and tuning into it, and I'll be able to cover most of it. But I want to give you the highlights and the news and the match cards right now that is set in line. Now, if I missed anything, I do apologize, but we'll try to get to everything the best we can. So the first match I have in line is Liv Morgan, Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey comes back and wants to have reclaim her SmackDown Women's Championship match after Liv Morgan won it at Money in the Bank and then cashed it in that very same night to beat Ronda Rousey. She goes on and wins a match against Ronda Rousey, and Ronda Rousey exits herself from, contention for a couple months. Now, she comes back, listen, she's had a rematch, and she comes back, earned a rematch in a Fatal 5-Way. I think that's what I like most about this storyline in particular, is because Ronda Rousey just didn't come back and insert herself in the title picture. She qualifies to earn herself an opportunity, but she actually earned herself the opportunity by winning the Fatal 5-Way. Now, this match has now become an Extreme Rules match, and I really feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Liv Morgan has been elevated thanks to Ronda Rousey. But I think it also goes back to respect. Really look back at her title run so far. How impressed are you, for one, with Liv Morgan's title run on SmackDown and being the SmackDown Women's Champion? Has she held the title to your expectation? Has she leveled up the Women's SmackDown Championship? Let's do a comparison with Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair, ever since she's won the title, she has elevated a little bit more. Has Liv Morgan done that? And I'm going to be honest with you, both Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships have not been elevated to its full potential. Now, I don't know if that's because of the lack of talent, I want to say talented opponents, but the lack of credibility with these opponents that aren't just built to an estate. Liv Morgan goes on and takes care of business with Ronda Rousey, which shocks the entire world, I believe. But then she goes on, and then her following up opponents aren't really nothing special. And the same thing with Bianca Belair. She finally wins and beats Becky Lynch. And who has she really had to go on and face? A Carmella? And for me, those aren't helping building up those titles alone, or B, is not helping crediting and not establishing a title run that is worth to be remembered. Right now, you got Bianca Belair and you got Liv Morgan as your champions. And the way I see it, okay, Liv Morgan will be facing Ronda Rousey at Extreme Rules in an Extreme Rules match for the SmackDown Women's Championship, correct? Bianca Belair is going to be facing Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship in a ladders match, correct? So these two women, and the only thing I say different about Bianca is that she continued that feud with Becky, but I guess you could say the same thing for both women. Between the time that they won those titles and now, they had irrelevant opponents to help push them to their best ability. Disagree with me on that one, please. Because there is no one right now. Ronda Rousey is on SmackDown and is probably the greatest competitor on the roster to challenge Liv Morgan. Well, other than Becky Lynch, which she's, has disappeared on Raw, Bayley is right now the better opponent that can elevate Bianca Belair. And on top of that, it's not like we've seen Rhea Ripley go after a title. And I think that's the next question that I have, and I'll get back to that in a moment. So, Ronda Rousey, Liv Morgan. I think that this would be, I really would like to see Ronda Rousey win. All right, I'm not decrediting Liv Morgan, but I like to see Ronda Rousey win. So I'm choosing Ronda Rousey. Okay, just by a one-on-one standpoint. I know Liv Morgan beat her once. I don't know if she could beat her again. I don't think that's happening. Now, if you want to twist and turn conspiracies, some Charlotte Flair has been out for a while. I would like to see Charlotte Flair. Apparently, I guess that's been a more of a personal issue why she's been off of television. Maybe she comes back and, ruins the title opportunity from Ronda Rousey. I don't know. Maybe it's a Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey at Crown Jewels. Over on Raw, and this is why Ronda winning is going to make it difficult, because on Raw, I think Bayley's going to win. All right. Unfortunately, I think the same thing that Mandy Rose and Toxic Attraction has done down in NXT is going to carry over to Bayley and Damage Control on Raw, and we're going to see this trio take reign. And I'm choosing Bayley to win in this ladder match, and it's going to come through the help of Damage Control, unfortunately. So those right now are my two opponents, two first matches that I think are going to come across. All right, let's continue down the line. All right, we talked about the Judgment Day. Let's get into the Judgment Day, because we have an I Quit match between Edge and Finn Balor. And I've told you guys this throughout the week already. My personal thoughts between Finn Balor, the Judgment Day, is that, hey, you're going after Hall of Famers and future Hall of Famers, right? AJ Styles, Rey Mysterio, and Edge. And I understand why you're trying to go after Edge. I understand why you're trying to go after, it's more like Edge now trying to come after Judgment Day. I feel like now there's an ego that, hey, I got to stop what I created. Rey Mysterio is trying to protect his son Dominic, which is now on the loose. And then you have AJ Styles, who's trying to get recruited and refused to get recruited altogether. And so there's just a whole lot of mayhem. But at the end of the day, what is the Judgment Day doing to push themselves forward further? They're picking on these older wrestlers, right? These retired wrestlers, because Edge is once retired and has come back. AJ Styles is towards the end of his career, as long as with Rey Mysterio, right? We could fairly state that. So it's great to see an I Quit match. I think it's elevated. You could, you're going to get Judgment Day involved. You'll probably get Rey Mysterio and, AJ Styles involved. All that stuff is open for greatness. And I think it's great. But, who realistically you're going to think and say, oh, I quit? And I think the only person that you could say and think as I quit, I think Finn Balor is walking away with this one. I think you get Edge to say I quit. I think this is kind of like you kind of have to hit rock bottom before you can come out to the top. And Judgment Day will benefit more from beating Edge than Edge benefits from stopping Judgment Day. And I don't think Judgment Day is quite over yet. Now, if Judgment Day was over yet, or if they're on the downhill spiral, which I don't believe they are, then that's when I would say Finn Balor will lose. But in this case, I think Finn Balor picks up a victory. So I have Finn Balor, and I think that this is going to be the main event of the night. I'm not confirmed if it is or not. Now, all right, let's continue. All right, we got the Fight Pit match, which I'm very, very excited in tuning into and watching. It's been a while since I've seen a Fight Pit match, and it's getting personal between Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins. Now, listen, Seth Rollins has been a one on top over Matt Riddle, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think Seth Rollins comes out on top again. I mean, it's nothing personal, But, I don't know. I mean, unless Randy Orton comes back, which I don't see is happening, not right now, unless, Matt Riddle, he's pushing the pricks, and Seth Rollins, what he's known to do, he's known to come out on top each and every time that, he has to prevail. All right, we have Karrion Kross taking on Drew McIntyre in a strap match, and the one thing I am taking away is just the fact that they have something for Karrion Kross. Now, could they built this a little bit more? Of course. Okay, but this is going to be a really good testament to see exactly what type of fans are getting behind Karrion Kross, and to see if he's going to be somebody in WWE. He was brought up the first time, he didn't succeed due to the hands of the creative team in WWE. Got released because of it, came back right away, and now picking on Drew McIntyre. And I think that this is where Karrion Kross needs to be, and I think that in this case, Karrion Kross walks away with the victory in beating Drew McIntyre, in my opinion. All right, we also got the Brawling Brutes taking on Imperium, good old-fashioned Donnybrook match. Now, I've liked the Brawling Brutes. I've liked Imperium going back at it. They've been very physical, very aggressive with each other. And you really, when you look at an Extreme Rules match, they don't need a lot of weapons. They just need a physicality. As a matter of fact, I would love to see both of these teams in a fight pit, right? I mean, more than anything else. But I'm looking for Imperium to win. They gain more to win this match, to move forward. And I think here's my last state, because I know it's hitting over 11. I got to wrap up the show. Here's my last statement. If I miss any matches, I apologize. But here's my last statement, is that you don't see the main titles, tag team titles. You don't see Roman Reigns defending his title. And what you're seeing on Extreme Rules are great matches. Where's the where's the United? Where's Bobby Lashley? Okay. And my thing is that would this show be a little bit better if one of those titles would have been defended? And let me be honest with you for a moment. I'm going to speak this off of clarity to end the show, is that if the titles were not on Roman Reigns or the Usos at this moment, would create, for me, it would create more opportunities for this roster that is starting to grow again to really thrive. And you're unsure about what's going to happen, which makes you want to tune in more. And my overall question is that because Roman Reigns and because the Usos are not on this program, does that ruin or does that somehow affect the overall review of Extreme Rules? A lot of these guys are stepping up, and they're stepping up to the plate, and I'm excited. It's a busy, really big match card. Really great show. Something that the WWE hasn't done in a while. But there's still things lingering over why it isn't as great. It could be better. And I think that Roman Reigns and the Usos having those titles, being that dominant, is affecting the product that the WWE is putting out. There, I said it. Disagree with me there. That's it. 2 hours have come and gone. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate your feedback and comments and being involved into our show. Check us out throughout the weekend. I don't know what game we'll be calling, but we will be calling a game. Until then, you guys have a wonderful weekend. You guys take care. We'll see you guys back Monday morning to cover all the sports. Thank you guys for tuning into The Throne with Justin right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.